Welcome, everybody, to the R&amp, a fan-based podcast focusing on Montana State athletics. We're two dudes named Ryan from the state of Washington talking about our dear Montana State. We hope you enjoy it. All right, welcome back, Bobcat fans. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the R&amp. I'm one of the Ryans, Ryan Foley. He's another Ryan Thornburg. He's back all the way from Europe, coming back to the States. We're happy to be here. We are part of the Big Sky Podcast Network, and we actually have a new sponsor this year, Gear Up Sports. Let me read our little read from Gear Up, sponsored by Gear Up Sports, a youth sports platform focused on solving the uniform and apparel headaches for coaches. If you are a youth or a high school coach, you need some uniforms or player packs, contact them at www.gearupwithus.com and make sure to mention the R&amp Catcast. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Been waiting
happy to have them on board. A couple, ran by some good Bobcat people over there. So give them a shout if that's something that you need. Because definitely good business, good dudes, good Bobcat fans.
Absolutely. I'm excited to actually mention him. That has been fun. It's been in the works.
Yeah.
And now the cat's out of the bag.
That's right.
Happy to have Gear Up with us. Excellent.
And
stuff.
more stuff coming related to that too, I think.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that probably later on. Don't think we're quite ready.
Hopefully next week. All right.
Next week.
Well, we're back. And we're about to go into conference play. Thorny's here. Let's do a little show rundown as normal. Happy to see you there, Thorny. First of all, we'll talk about the news, pretty much injuries, and there's some stuff going on with Lanana. Junior Alexander we'll talk about. And we'll give a brief recap of the presser today, what happened with Coach Vegan and what he said. There was a couple of interesting things that he put out there. But, we'll talk about that, and then we'll do the Weber State preview. We'll probably mention Stetson slightly. We recapped it during the instant reaction show, so we won't give too much on that. Plus, it was kind of a boring game. So we'll breeze past that, but we do have quite a few Golden Coolie questions and some bold predictions.
Yeah, I think that sounds fun. It's good to be back, man. It was a fun trip overseas. Spent a little time in Germany, Austria, and Ireland for the most of it. But kind of funny, there was two different instances where I was wearing my Bobcat shirt. I did pack one, and I was stopped twice by Bobcat, either alumni or in the case of when I was in Salzburg, which is a town in Austria, there's a fortress there up on the little kind of like hill/mountain thing. Somebody stopped me and said that they're going to school in Salzburg and they're international student from Montana State. So they're like doing the international partnership or whatever. So that's pretty funny. And then the other one was at a castle in Kilkenny, Ireland. So two castles, stopped by two people, two Bobcat fans. Pretty funny. I only wore that shirt like 4 times, and like half the time I wore it, somebody stopped me, said "Go Cats." So that was pretty cool.
That is really cool. Did you happen to take your Golden Coolie? I know that's a Golden Coolie question from CNC.
No, I didn't take that, and I did not bring my Gold Rush shirt, which I was going to, but my wife, before we packed the trip, I have so many Gold Rush shirts, and I wear them all the time for random purposes. She's like, "You're not taking any of these yellow shirts, are you?" It's like, maybe, but no. Nope, did not. But I did watch part of the Gold Rush game in the middle of the night in Germany, and a little bit of the South Dakota State game post game. I woke up and the game was over, but didn't really get to watch either of those live. But I did watch a little bit when I could.
How much Guinness did you drink?
I mean, I don't know. That's pretty much all I drank when I was in Ireland. It tastes better over there. I've never been a huge Guinness fan, but I was like, I'll do it since we're here. It was hitting the spot every time, man. I don't know what it is about the pours over there or whatever. Maybe Americans just don't know how to pour Guinness, or maybe I just never order Guinness on the tap, so I only drink it out of the can, and maybe that's why it tastes so much better. I don't know. But it was great. And at one point, I did get burned out, and I ordered a few Coors Lights at this little Irish bar. But most of the time, almost everything I drank was Guinness, and I had Irish whiskey my very last night, my very last drink, because I figured I have to have like one Irish whiskey while I'm in Ireland, just to kind of cap the trip.
Nice, man.
Yes, a lot of Guinness, a tour of the Guinness factory, not a tour necessarily, the little experience that they have there, the little thing they have, which is pretty fun. But yeah, lots of Guinness. Guinness is a big part of the culture, and like it's pretty amazing how much of an influence it had on like the economy and everything. Pretty interesting.
Well, you definitely sent me some good pictures. I missed you, Ryan. I missed talking Bobcat football with you, and you seemed just kind of aloof. You're like, well, I'm out of the country. I'm not really thinking about it all that much. You had a little update. I had a lot of thoughts, especially after the South Dakota State game. I want to thank Zach Levere and Tom Stuber for coming on and pulling duties while you were gone, and those guys did excellent work. And I had to learn how to edit a podcast at one point and produce it all, and so it was more work on my plate. But I'm so happy you're back because you could take over those duties again.
Yes. Yeah, I completely checked out of like everything that tethered me back to the United States, back to responsibilities, including Bobcat football. I was just like, meh, just to everything. Like checking in once a day with the kids, but it was hard with the time zone change, so that didn't even happen every day because we were 8 or 9 hours ahead of them, and it was a school day. So like if we weren't in Wi-Fi range around the time they were getting ready for school, that's pretty much didn't talk to the kids that day. But it was nice. It was very relaxing. Got lots of sleep comparatively. Saw lots of sights. Drank lots of Guinness. Had a great time. I highly recommend. Driving over there, scary as heck. Don't really recommend that. Wrong side of the road. Little rock walls, no shoulders. You veer off too far to the left, you're scraping your car up, your rental car. Get the insurance. But I do recommend it in terms of like you can do all the sites you want to do. You can see whatever you want to see and take your own pace. Tour buses just doesn't look as fun.
Yeah, typically I would do that. Not the tour bus, but go my own route.
Yeah, well, be prepared.
Alrighty. Well, let's get into, before we get into anything, we got our Golden Coolie segment.
What's in your Golden Coolie?
All right. Well, first of all, thank you to our sponsor for the Golden Coolie segment, Wilbur Ellis in the Golden Triangle. See them for all your farming equipment and fertilizer needs. Shay Richter's the guy you want to talk to. We appreciate them for being a sponsor for this year. And I'm happily not drinking a Guinness. I am drinking Kettle House Fish On, a juicy pale ale from the Kettle House Brewing Company over there in Missoula, or they're not technically Missoula. Are they Boulder or something like that? Not Boulder. What am I thinking
Kettle House?
of? Yeah.
Kettle House, Missoula.
What's the one that's like right outside Missoula?
Big Sky.
There's that little tiny like logging thing right outside Missoula. I thought that's where they were. Whatever. Kettle House. I like it. I don't think I've ever had this before. It's got like
Fish
a picture
on?
of like a fly fishing reel on it or something. It's pretty tasty. I've never had it. I like it.
I don't think I've seen that. I'm kind of chastising myself. I have a Rainier, and I have put zero effort in the Golden Coolie game for like becoming interesting during this segment, and that was something I always tried to pride myself in. So I need to pick up that.
You're
I
failing.
will. Yes, I will do better next week. I will not have. I vouch not to have a Rainier or a. What was I drinking with Tom? A Coors Banquet.
Yeah,
So
you're hitting just the all American macro brews. Look at you go.
It's almost akin to like when we do this podcast in March. Nobody's listening. Nobody cares because there's nothing going on. You're like, what do I have in my fridge? You have like you have your Skinny Ultra. What are those little things? Michelob Ultras.
Michelob Ultras, yeah. I don't fit in the coolie.
They're too skinny.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it comes to. At some point, it's just whatever's left in the fridge. But it's too early in the season for that, Foley.
Yeah, I know.
Get better.
And
Do better.
I was at Rose Hours today. I could have done better. I should have, but I just didn't want to take the time to actually just sit there and think. So that's on me. I'll do better next week. Work upon for me.
I even got a Miner's Gold as a backup. I got like 2 beers that are better than your beer.
Look at you. Well, alrighty. Well, let's get into the news. which is basically the injury report. And we'll start off with Lanata Junior Alexander. Came out today that he didn't pass. His waivers, NCAA waivers, got denied. And this was always apparently from Coach Vegan, this was always something that was on the table. Now, I did not know this, Thorny, but he has 2 years of eligibility left. So his football playing is not done. It's just done for this season.
That's frustrating. I guess I didn't know that. It just seems weird that it would take this long to figure that out. I guess that's what's so frustrating to me is like dragging players along like Junior Alexander in this situation. They went through fall camp, game 1, game 2, game 3. Am I going to get a play? Like they wait that long to tell you. It's frustrating.
Oh, hugely frustrating.
Could have easily figured this out in June, July, August, right? Come on.
I feel for the fans. I feel for Montana State, but mostly I feel for Junior. It's going to be terribly hard. Coach Vegan said he's in a good spot and he has a good support system here. And that's really what it comes down to. Junior started at Arizona. It's a bad fit over there. Went back to Washington. Coaching change happened. Came over to Montana State looking for a fresh start. And apparently to Coach Vegan, he's thriving. So, hats off to you, Junior. That's a tough pill to swallow. We were all looking forward to seeing you. But man, it sucks. So that's the major news of the day.
Can he still practice?
I don't know. Yeah, that's a really good question. That's something I hadn't thought about that.
Because if not, that's tough. Because then he can't even be. If you're out there practicing, you can at least be part of the team in a way. But if you can't even do that, then what do you do?
Yeah, that's tough. So
that is tough.
We'll report back when we know more about that. Let's get into some of the injuries. It looks like JT Reed and Ty McCullough have been practicing. They're not going to play this week, but they're about a week out. That's encouraging. And we haven't seen Ty McCullough. I mean, we'll talk about the receivers. He's one of them that we were hyped to see, but haven't seen. Paul Brott is going to be returning, and Simeon Woodard is going to come back as well. So both those guys are going to see some playing time. Paul Brott, first time this year. So he'll be, really welcomed on the defensive line, especially after Zach Black suffered a knee injury that is going to cost him the season. Tommy, what we heard about that is it's not surgical and it's
Correct.
Not a ligament issue, is what Coach Vegan says. He's not available this week. To be determined. It's all speculation at this point.
I've heard everything.
Yeah, you tend to think it's longer. Typically with this kind of stuff. Oh, who knows what it is, right?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Mine's just a gut feeling he's going to be gone for 4 weeks or something stupid, right?
Well, I'm just a little bit shy because I'm a Bengals fan. And then so the whole Joe Burrow calf thing, if you whatever you do, if you think it's healed and you come back too soon and all the soft tissue stuff, I don't know if it's soft tissue, whatever it is. It's just another Tommy injury that we were having to process again. And it feels like an old hat and it sucks because of, Tommy's Tommy and we need Tommy. I don't know. We could go down a lot of different routes right there. I try not to get pessimistic right now with that.
It's hard, man. He's at this point, Montana State has 2 quarterbacks who both have a history of injuries.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. You have to game plan for it. You can't assume either one of those guys are going to be healthy for long. Unfortunately, you got to have plan C
and D, because I think it's not only that they have a penchant for getting hurt, it's because Montana State uses them in a way where they will get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about that today. I was like, I'm not sure it matters necessarily how they use Tommy. Unfortunately, I might get a lot of flack for this, but I feel like Tommy's kind of a guy who's going to get hurt. If he's playing drop back quarterback, he's probably still going to get hurt. Is like you said, hurt guys who get hurt, right?
Yeah, with his concussion history and it seems like I don't know what it is. He just takes a lot of hard hits, just given the nature he has the ball and guys run for him. Tough. It's really tough. I mean, he's a tough kid, but he's not superhuman.
No.
None of these guys are. So,
well, hopefully he can heal up and stay healthy for the rest of the season when he comes back. That's all we can really hope
well,
for.
In the meantime, we have, as somebody put it online, a huge luxury in Sean Chambers.
It's true.
Yeah. Think about that.
There's a lot of schools in the FCS who would kill for Sean Chambers as QB1.
Yeah. And he's our incumbent backup. Well, he's going to be our starter for the foreseeable future. Not sure what that is going to come to an end, but we'll see. Anyways, we'll get into that. Alrighty. Let's go into the polls. Montana State held rank at number 3. South Dakota State, North Dakota State held chalk up top. Sacramento State is number 4. They moved all the way up to number 8 after being Stanford. William and Mary went down to 5. They were at 4. Holy Cross is 6. Idaho is now 7. They were number 5. So they dropped 2 spots. Let's see, number 10. So I just dropped down to number 10 right there, Weber State. So this is a top 10 matchup going into this week. Montana's number 13. And let's see, I think UC Davis is there. Yeah, UC Davis is top 15. So
did Eastern crack?
I was looking at another poll. That's why I'm being a little bit kind of hesitant right now that this doesn't match up with. This is the FCS Stats Perform poll.
Yeah, that's usually what we look at. Just make sure it's not the coach's one.
Okay, there you go. Eastern Washington's getting votes. They're 2 behind cracking the top 25. They would be number 28 right now.
Yeah, there's a few FCS polls nowadays, but I think we kind of have usually focused on the FCS stats poll.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's crazy. Like basically half the Big Sky is going to be ranked.
Yeah, that is kind of crazy. It is. And that's something I was just going to reflect on just a little bit. Just the strength of the Big Sky, at least the top half of the Big Sky is well represented in the top 15. Montana State has to go play pretty much all those guys on the road. Woo, man,
Yep.
It does not get easy for Montana State coming up.
No, nope. And there's a lot to talk about in that regard. But yeah, opportunity slipped away at South Dakota State because, it's going to be hard to go undefeated the rest of the way out. It's going to be real hard.
All right. The only other thing I had is Coach Vegan's presser. Not much. I mean, got all that injury news from him.
Yeah.
He just kind of mentioned, and somebody asked him this, and I didn't realize it was this, that we had played Weber 3 times out of our last 11 games. So Coach talked about how we make adjustments for what they do well, and they're going to be making adjustments for what we do well. It's kind of like a chess match against Weber. And one thing he did mention was it was a little bit Jeff Choate-esque. He started the press conference just listing off their dudes, and they got a lot of dudes that we'll talk about. But he spent time speaking of them by name, and I don't know. I don't remember Coach Vegan doing that as much, but very aware of Weber, respects the program, and he just pretty much vanilla stuff when he talked about it. But and the only other interesting thing I thought was he talked about Powdrell, our freshman defensive back, maybe being able to play a little nickel in the future. And I thought that was a little interesting. That's something I mined out of that.
Yeah, what happened to Aiden Parks? I thought he was right there in the mix at the nickel spot, and then all of a sudden he's like not anywhere. Was he on the depth chart?
I didn't look at the depth chart today.
Well, there's no Tommy on it. That's really the only big thing. He was on the depth chart for Stetson. So interesting that he's completely gone.
That's all show of hand or sleight of hand, whatever you want to call it. So we'll see.
It's true.
All right.
All right.
Where do you want to go from here? Just talk about Stetson a little bit, to give a little stats recap.
Yeah, stats, man. I'm back. This is what I do. I do the stats thing. I don't know if anyone likes it. I don't know if I like it, but I do it. So it's something that I do. All right, let's get into the game that was. Montana State takes care of the Stetson Mad Hatters from Florida, 57-20. Cats muster 26 first downs, going 5 for 10 on third down. That's a pretty good 50% clip there. 2 for 2 on fourth down, 618 total yards, 272 through the air, 16 of 30, 9.1 yards per pass, and no interceptions. But even with that decent passing game from Montana State, we still managed 346 yards on 9.6 yards per carry.
Woo.
5 penalties for 32 yards. Still some stuff you don't want to see that reared its ugly head. We'll talk about that. 1 fumble lost by Jacob Trimble, and possession 28 minutes and 43 seconds for the Cats. Going over to Stetson, 16 first downs, 6 of 15 for third down. So Stetson actually did a decent job on third down. 280 total yards for Stetson, 175 through the air, 16th of 29 for 6.0 yards per pass, but they did throw 2 interceptions. That was a kind of big one there. 105 yards on the ground for just 3 yards a carry. Montana State really shut down their running game. Even though they busted a couple decent runs, every other run went backwards, basically. 4 penalties for Stetson for 14 yards. And yes, the 2 interceptions there, but they did win the time of possession battle. But, when Montana State's averaging like 9.5 yards per play, 618 yards, scoring a lot of points, you're not going to have to possess the ball for very long. So that one makes complete sense. So there's the team stats.
Stetson was 2 for 2 on field goals. Montana State was 3 for 3 on field goals. And we had 4 sacks for a loss of 22 yards, which is pretty good. Some individual stats. Sean Chambers had himself a pretty nice day. He was 9 for 13 for passing for 140 yards, 5 rushes for 55 yards with 2 touchdowns. One being a long of, I can't remember, didn't write it down, but it was like 30-some yards or something like that.
30, because I'm looking at the stats because I'm modern and I look at digital things that are still accurate.
My wife had to bring my steno pad down. I left it up on the table. Good thing.
That's even worse. That's funny.
I was sweating there for a little minute.
Stat pad. Can you bring it down?
You were talking about your beer. I was shooting off a text there. I was like, oh my gosh, forgot it upstairs.
Or you can just go to ESPN.com.
Probably could have. That would have been too hard, right? Okay. 7 for 17, 132 yards. Jared White had 4 carries for 80 yards. Jared White, man, that guy, all that guy does is do big yard runs lately. He only gets like 4 carries, but he's always buzzing him close to 100 yards. He had a touchdown. Julius Davis had 7 carries for 66 yards. Julius Davis is becoming our number 1 featured back, I feel. He's just kind of the workhorse. But they tend to give Scottree Humphrey the carries when they get into the red zone because he's just more powerful looking. He's like 17 years old, Thorny. Oh my gosh. He had 7 carries for 53 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. That's what I'm telling you, man. He's like this. He's playing the Sean Chambers touchdown role that we had last year, right? Elijah Elliott. Everybody's screaming for Elliott to get more yards. I mean, we all love Elijah Elliott. 3 carries, 49 yards. Jacob Trimble, freshman wide receiver, had 6 carries, 6 receptions for 104 yards. So there is a receiver, a Bobcat receiver, breaking the 100-yard mark. And it would have been a lot more if he would have hauled that in and not put that one on the turf there in the red zone. Cleveland, 2 for 42. Askelson, Nolan, some defensive stats. 6 solo tackles, 7 total. Zach Cruz had a tackle for a loss, 1 sack. Blake Schmidt had 2 tackles for a loss and 1 sack. Seabass had 1.5 tackles for a loss and a sack. And Brody Greavy had 1 tackle for a loss and a sack. So there they are. Individual stats. Stetson. I'm glad that game's over with. Super boring game.
Yeah. What did we learn from this game? I'll just start off with that. What did we learn?
Gosh, I wasn't prepared to answer that. What did we learn? We could be more multiple in our play calling. I think Sean Chambers gives us a comfortable option back there. We all knew, I think everybody was a little bit frustrated coming out of South Dakota State because it was, Sean Chambers, very predictable. I felt like the play calling in general is very predictable and kind of conservative for South Dakota State. So I'm glad to see we brought more to the plate against Stetson. My question was, why didn't we do that against South Dakota State? You could argue.
Well,
we were running the
Go ahead.
ball against them. But we could have used a little bit more diversification in our play calling. I don't know. So I'm going in circles here.
Yeah. Well, what I take away from that, and it's right along what you're saying. Yes, we showed we can be more multiple. We showed that we can pass the ball and call a game to that effect, especially in the red zone. I saw more things in the red zone that was like, why didn't we do any of that as against South Dakota State? Like Sean Chambers rolling like a play action rollout from like the 5-yard line, that should be money against anybody.
Yeah.
He can pass it, or he can just make one cut and plow a poor little linebacker over.
Yeah. Right.
But what on the flip side of that is it doesn't matter if we play Weber State, we go right back to shrinking the playbook up, which is what seems to happen. It seems when we get to those top tier defenses, the top tier FCS teams, we shrink everything down to these core plays, this core play calling, and it just looks vanilla. We go away from anything that we've seen all season long, any of the stuff that's worked in other games, and it just shrinks down to QB run. And it's great that we showed that we can do it, but I'll hold my breath that we'll actually do it in a meaningful game.
Trying to think of a different meaningful game that we had great play calling last year. Huh.
UC Davis, the Sean Chambers game last year.
Yeah, UC Davis was one of my favorite games, not only because we just won it in just going away fashion. That was the Sean Chambers game where he started off with a 70-plus yard touchdown. But then we also had some dynamic pass plays.
Yeah.
Passes up the seam during that game. Yeah, I wonder, man. Like these Weber State games are just slobber knockers, right? They're hard physical games. I wonder what we try to do.
It just seems like we try to play keep away.
Yeah.
It's like we don't trust our defense enough. So our plan is to possess the ball as long as possible, even if that means leaving big plays off the board, because there's a 5-yard play we could have that extends the drive instead of a 50-yard touchdown. Let's just keep getting 5 yards every single play.
It's leading to a lot of injuries too. I mean, the way we play ball is really putting Sean Chambers and Tommy Malott out.
Yeah.
It's a
Like
double-edged sword.
I'm not sure I totally buy that necessarily. They're football players. They're big dudes. It's not like we have like little 180-pound scrawny quarterbacks running back there.
Here's a question.
Either one of these guys would be like a linebacker, like Tommy Malott could be a starting safety.
So do you think it's a play calling thing, or do you think it's Tommy, when Tommy was playing, just being like, I trust myself more and just instincts, and same with Chambers when he gets inside of 20? Do you think it's his instincts to just pull and just go for it, just be the bull down there?
It could be like, winners want the ball kind of mentality. Like, I'm keeping this. I don't know. I mean, Tommy got hurt on a fake pitch, right? Like a zone read. Sean kept it, and then the linebacker took Tommy out.
Yeah.
Dove low at him, and it was a clean play. Nothing wrong with the play. That's just an unfortunate thing that happens. That was like one of the few times we've seen both quarterbacks on the field at the same time, and Tommy gets hurt. But I think the problem is both those guys are such big running threats that referees don't call them in the same way that they would call a quarterback in terms of like roughing the passer and all that. They're going to key off on them because they're such dangerous runners. The defenses want to hit them hard. It's very apparent. I mean, defenses always want to crush the quarterback, but it feels like teams really target our quarterbacks. It's on zone read plays, like they will crush the quarterback even if they know that they're not going to keep the ball. Eastern Washington did this real bad last year. They were determined to hit Tommy Malott whether he had the ball or not. And I kind of feeling that other teams have done that too. So
I noticed that with the Jacks. I don't think I've noticed that.
Go ahead.
No, I don't think I've noticed that outside of that, but apparently Eastern did, and yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, but I mean that could be part of the more injuries than anything. Is just they're dynamic runners, and teams know they have to, hit them hard to make them think twice about running. I don't know. It's just spitballing here. I mean,
Tough,
like
man.
I said, I think if even those guys are just drop back passers, if you designed 0 run plays for Tommy Millott, number one, he's still going to scramble because it's just who he is. So he's still going to be running out there amongst the linebackers and the defensive linemen, and he's going to get like sacked or zone read stuff. He's going to get crushed. So I'm not sure it matters if you're calling 20 run plays for Tommy Millott or not. He's still going to get hit a lot.
Do you think this type of offense can win a national championship?
Yes, I do.
That's what Tom Stuber said too. I'm not sure it can.
I think
because it hasn't
the capabilities
yet.
there.
It hasn't yet. I think we need more passing, a better balanced attack in order to make that happen. I think what we do works. And it works well until it doesn't. And when it doesn't, it's typically when we face the Dakota schools.
Yeah, well, we should have beaten South Dakota State if we didn't have 9 false starts fully.
Yeah, we could have walked away with a 14-point win easily.
Yeah,
in that game
with the game plan everyone hated. It almost worked. It should have worked, and it would have worked if we would have figured out the cadence issues.
Here's a kind of a hot take or question. Maybe I should ask you: is it better that we lost and we're not number one?
No, no, that's not how this team operates. Some teams need to be the underdog. Jeff Choate teams needed to be the underdog. He needed to build it up. And I don't think that would have mattered. I think it's worse because if we want to beat the Dakota schools, I sure as hell would rather play them at home in the playoffs. And losing to South Dakota State almost guarantees we're either going to North Dakota State or South Dakota State.
Yeah, maybe.
At some point in the playoffs.
I'm not certain North Dakota State's going to continue to do what they do, but until they're knocked off, we'll see.
Yeah, everyone's I think North Dakota State's loving where they are right now.
Yeah, probably.
Everyone's kind of just writing them off. Quietly, they're scoring 40 points a game and just smoked like a top 20 team in Central Arkansas. Just handled them. So they're just loving this, like watching everyone like Montana State and South Dakota State duke it out for the number 1 and number 2 spot. North Dakota State's like, do whatever you want. We're still here. And what I know about Matt Entz, he's feeding that into his players, man. He's feeding that, quote, disrespect nonstop into their ears. I don't like that guy.
Yeah, I don't either. I didn't like the Jacks head coach too. I listened to one of his press releases that week on Coulter's show, and he just came across as so schmoozy to me and kind of arrogant, and you're kind of wasting my time, Coulter, kind of thing. And I was just like, man, this guy's just something about him just rubbed me the wrong way. And I could be misreading it, but I talked to a couple other people. They're like, yeah, I got the same thing, but whatever.
Man, their whole team was like that.
Yeah. They were like
There's a bunch of
flexing over
chippy
us.
guys who play up to the whistle and oftentimes past the whistle.
A little bit like Robbie Hauk. A whole team of Robbie Hauks over there.
Kinda.
It was a little bit. You watched them. That's what I was getting a little irritated during the game. Tackle you, and they would flex over you just enough, and then you would see like, okay, pulling off just before the flag comes out. Like, yeah. Okay, it's going to be that kind of game, right?
No, they kind of mastered that, and you know who they learned it from was North Dakota State, because North Dakota State was real good at that too.
We have a really healthy rival with South Dakota State right now. I think that's cool.
Yeah,
like it's somebody
I respect
to hate. Yeah, so instead of the Grizzlies,
but I do hate them a little bit.
Yeah, right. And you want to take them down.
That's
I think
right.
we will. I think we will get our revenge this year.
Bold take. Hope you're right. Are we still talking about Stetson?
I don't know. I don't want to talk anymore about Stetson. I didn't learn all that much. We learned we could put away a crappy team. I like our defense this year, man. That's one thing I continue to do. I like our defense. I know Stetson hit a couple passes, but yeah, they were against like, second, third stringers, trying to figure out their gap scheme, and they're just going to be missing a gap here and there. And they made some good plays. Stetson.
I like our defense. I don't love them yet, but I think it's a huge improvement over last year.
Yeah. That's where I'm at too. I don't love them, but yeah, it's an improvement for sure.
There was that one play where their running back went to the left side, looked like it was bottled up, and he just bounced around, and then got like a 40-yard gain and was one shoestring tackle away from breaking a big touchdown run because we couldn't wrap up.
And we didn't set the edge on that one either. So,
and I went back and watched that play. When he cut back, John Johnson was in the backfield there, and for some reason, he was facing sideways because he was completely out of position. He wasn't expecting a running back to pop back his way. And instead of like going back toward the line of scrimmage and making the running back bounce outside, he kind of like froze in place and then went to the left, aka back into the backfield. So he got juked to the opposite side of where he should have gone. He should have just forced the guy outside. It was pretty funny. I mean, it worked out in the end, but this stuff's not going to work against Weber State because one thing Weber State is really good at is breaking tackles, especially Bankston, the running back.
Ooh,
if we can't wrap him up, he's gonna eat us alive.
Yeah.
So no more of that
about him last year.
Hitting to like level guys. Wrap up. That's fundamental tackling is when it's gonna have to be, because you're gonna be putting lots of one-on-one positions, and you have to make those tackles.
Can we talk Weber?
I think so. Did we want to do any sort of out of conference recap? I think we kind of did a little bit. I guess we kind of talked about South Dakota State. There's really no point in talking about Utah Tech, and we've already talked about Stetson. So I think we're probably kind of good on that. I put that in the notes. Yeah. I feel like that's good enough.
Well, I
got to say my little word about South Dakota State, which I was itching to. But I think I got most things covered.
If it comes out, just let it go, man, because it's cathartic to talk and vent against the Jacks. And we're going to keep track of those dudes over there. You and I both pinned in losses for South Dakota State. So
yeah,
this was what we were predicting going into the conference 2-1.
It's so funny. Like predicting a loss and then actually losing is like all of a sudden you're mad. Yeah. It's like I thought we would lose. So why am I mad? And it's also funny, you and I talked about how we think Montana State gets better throughout the year. So if we think that's the case, like what's the problem? Like we're sitting not bad. Sitting pretty, but we're sitting pretty good. As long as we take care of this next game, this is a huge game.
Yes, this is a huge game. So in recap, we're going to play Weber, and then we have Portland State at home. We go to Cal Poly, should win there. We're at Sac State. I don't know what to think about Sac State. I'm not convinced that they're good. I'm convinced that they're good, but are they like our level? I'm not sure about that.
Have we played them since that homecoming game you and I went to?
I don't think so. That one's at 8:30 at night. Oh my gosh, that's gonna be terrible.
Okay, that's perfect. That's great. Kids are in bed. I get uninterrupted access to watch an entire football game. Yeah.
Okay, so after this week, we have two games that we should be favored in, heavily favored: Portland State, Cal Poly. At Sac State, that's gonna be tough. Then we come down to the Palouse, play Idaho. So back-to-back, pretty tough games. And then we have Northern Arizona and Eastern Washington at home. Finally, Eastern Washington has to go to Bozeman. Finally. Don't get me started on that. Holy cow. And then we go over to Missoula. So, man, I don't know. Yeah, it feels really, if we lose this week, it's going to feel really bad. It's going to feel like, okay, backs against the wall, Jeff Choate mentality all over again. I don't want to feel that.
If we lose to Weber, 7-4 is in the cards.
Absolutely. And I think this is kind of a grudge match for Weber. We've beat Weber the last 3 times. So go back in Vegan's era. Go back to when Troy Anderson was playing with us. We had a 13-7 victory. A Friday night 13-7 victory.
Oh, that's right.
October 15th, and it was just a physical, all-out brawl. And I remember watching that game going, holy cow. Just slobber knocker.
Yeah, that was one of the most physical just brawls I've seen.
Yeah, 13-7. Jay Hill, Coach Vegan, Freddie Banks. It was that was in Ogden too. And then we played Weber twice last year, 43-38 on October 22nd, when that was the infamous game where they couldn't snap the ball. Such a weird game. We came back
And they
from
still
a
kind of
huge
had a
deficit.
chance to win that game.
Yeah. It was like this was kind of a theme where Montana State would take the win or take the lead, and then we were just praying to hold on. And Ty McPherson dropped the ball on 4th down at the very end of the game and then hit him in his hands. And it was uncharacteristic, but he had a couple big drops in that game. I felt lucky that we won that game. I felt actually that Weber lost that game rather than us winning that game. We had a punt return and a kick return against us that game. We just did not look sharp.
No.
And then
Nope.
we won in the second round of the playoffs. We were all really nervous because Weber was coming back to town, and we jumped out on them like 33 or 30-10. And then who was their quarterback that got kicked out? I was thinking about this guy today. He got hurt. Constantine. Was it Constantine? Was that
No,
it?
that was 2 years ago, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, this kid.
Because he was a running joke on the Big Sky Podcast Network, so I'm pretty sure he was already gone by then. Because he transferred like Rice or something.
That's right.
It was yeah.
So forgettable.
Is it Shanks? Was there a Shanks? Who am I thinking of?
No.
Shanks.
Anyways,
What was his
the
name?
current quarterback, Kylan Weiser, came in for him and led
Weiser.
a couple Weiser, whatever, Weiser, and
See,
led
so
a couple drives back for them. Could sling the rock, and we were just holding on again. And it was something where I think we got stopped on 4th and 1 where we could have put the game away. It was just kind of those games. So I don't know. I feel like this is a grudge match, and I think Weber's licking his chops. I also think Weber's looked pretty stinking good this year. They're 2-1. They beat Central Washington 10-35, and then they had probably their best game against Northern Iowa in the Unidome, beating them 34-17, doubling them up. They lost last week 7-31 against Utah. Utah's number 12 team in the nation. But man, Weber, they just look tough. They always look tough. To me, Weber's one of those teams that always just looks bigger than everybody else. Because they got really old dudes on their team that are like 25, 26 years old.
I remember Jeff Cho always described them as like they have a Mountain West defense. Like they just look different than your other defenses of the Big Sky. Every one of those guys looks FBS size. Oh, by the way, Bronson Barron is the quarterback. I had to go. It was eating me up. Like, what is his name? Bronson Barron. Yeah, we knocked him out, right, in that game?
Yeah.
And then, Kyle Weiser, the guy who's currently the quarterback. Yeah, man, they were physical against Utah. Now, Utah's missing a bunch of their stars, but losing 7-31 to the number 10 ranked team in the country, and it was 7-7 at one point. I mean, that was nothing to hang your head about.
What was Weber in the Big Sky power ranking polls? We didn't talk about those because we didn't write it down. I know you tried to put it in.
So I think Weber was 3.
Yeah. So remember preseason they were ranked number 6 in the conference or something like that. Maybe 5.
Like to finish. You're conflating two things. Like that Big Sky power rankings is our fun little group. The actual preseason conference polls. Yeah, I think they were picked to finish 6 or something.
Yeah. I'm just saying Weber's better than what we were thinking they would be. So
well, maybe. Have they done any? I mean, winning at Northern Iowa, maybe expected, but the other two were completely expected. So I'm not sure that we know who Weber is yet. I'm not sure we know who anybody is yet. But I mean, yeah, they're 2-1. They're looking like they got. I don't know. They look like they're not quite as good as they have been. They're not as elite statistically as they have been. Like if you're looking at the team stats, the defensive leaders, now it's out of conference. Everything's kind of hard to compare right now. But when's the last time, Weber State is like 4th in scoring defense, and they are 6th in yards per game defense.
Huh.
Like that's, I know they played Utah, but that's just not quite what you expect out of Weber State.
They still got a guy named Winston Reed.
They're always top 3 everything. Who's Winston Reed?
Only like the Big Sky preseason MVP. He's their
Oh,
linebacker, first team.
You'd think I know that.
Well, he's a guy. He's been there for a while. And I think his brother played on the team as well. They have some players. I mean, one thing we're not going to kick to what's his name, Abraham Williams. Well, at least we hope we don't. I hope Hall puts it out of the back of the end zone.
Yeah, if Abraham Williams gets a return in this game, somebody failed. Either Brandon Hall, Coach Vegan. Who's our special teams coach? Is it also Vegan?
Justin Udy.
Is Udy special teams now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, someone's going to be held responsible if Abraham Williams is able to return a kick. Kick it out of bounds. I don't care.
I love how Justin Udy, for some reason, gets mischaracterized as every coach because for some reason the TV
camera's always on Justin Udy.
Yeah, they're like,
did they say
Coach
Brent
Vegan
one time?
Yeah, he was Coach Vegan at one point. He was Coach House, right? Another game. Poor Coach Udy. And Coach Udy's always just fired up too. He's just sitting there jawing the whole time. I think the South Dakota State game, I think the flag was on Coach Udy.
And the camera went to him, but I never heard. I don't know if it was ever confirmed who that flag was on. But I think it was Udy. But I don't know. But yeah, anyway, so if Udy's also responsible for this, maybe the graphics could say somebody else and he'll get out of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's pretty simple for me for Weber State to me. And I put this on the Bobcat Nation today. Don't kick to Abraham Williams.
Okay.
Tackle.
Yeah. Right.
Don't get beat deep. Because Weiser, the thing he does best is throw a deep ball. He's got a strong arm. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's pretty much it. There's one more thing on there. It's going to drive me crazy. I'm going to go look it up right now. But it seems like it's, oh yeah, and then the game plan is more than Sean Chambers 20 times up the gut. I think if those things, I think we have a decent chance of winning. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be physical. I'm not saying that I think the Cats have an easy victory or anything, but I think with the improved defense and the ability to run the ball in multiple ways, if we get back to that, I think we should be able to win this game.
I don't doubt that. I just worry about kind of like I said, the grudge match part. I think beating them 3 times in a row and that not being the history between this rivalry, kind of a balanced rivalry. It's not a rivalry. It's just a conference game, but they're mad. I mean, we beat them twice last year and dictated some terms, and I'm sure they felt like they should have won those games. And now we're back in their house. And so there's a revenge factor for Weber. And I don't know. That's something. That is something. I think Montana State has a better offensive line.
Yep.
And that is a key to this game. Absolute key to this game.
Yeah, it's been a while since I would say that I think MSU does have a better offensive line and a better defensive line than Weber State.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could say that last year confidently. They had some dudes.
Our defense is a little bit better this year. I like our defensive scheme. I like the way we're using Paldrell. I think our safety play has gotten better because of, Jeff Manning not being there.
Well, Drew Polidor.
Yeah. That's what I meant to say. Drew Polidor. Who did I say?
Let's keep it on the positive. You said Jeff Manning's not there anymore.
Well, that's what I meant, but
I know it's what you meant. But I'm saying let's give some credit to Drew Polidor. We don't need to take Manning down a notch.
I was never a fan of Jeff Manning.
I know. But we're using Polidor in a nice way, though.
Blitzing him, which is
blitzing
awesome.
A free safety, which is gutsy. But he's fast and he's hitting hard, man. He was crushing people at South Dakota State. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the things, like there was 2 guys in that game that I thought really set the tone from the physicality standpoint. It was Drew Polidor and it was Julius Davis. Julius Davis was running mean in that game. There was one play where he mowed a guy over completely.
He was fired up.
Yeah, he's a strong runner, man. Those were fired up. Those guys are competitors. So I think there's a level of physicality the defense has this year that did not have last year.
You're spot on. I loved when they would pan to the sideline when Julius would come out. He'd take off his helmet. His hair is just flying out everywhere. He's just yelling on the sideline. He just amped up. And I was like, man, this guy gets it.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't part of these losses last year against these guys, but he's a team guy, man. I love all those Bobcats. They always talk about the brotherhood of the team. Those guys are tight. They get it.
For sure. I could see why he's getting the majority of the snaps.
Dude, what do you think of Humphrey, Scotchy Humphrey?
He needs better patience. Other than that, love the guy. Love him. If you want a guy like give the ball and he's going to get shot out of a cannon, he's that kind of running back. And he's physical. He will mow you over too. There was it Stetson or was it was Stetson where he could have made a cut and probably ran by the guy, but he just no, I'm going to run full steam into this poor little safety. He got tackled. I think he could have ran around him.
Oh man, he's the number one dude on the Bobcat team I would not want to tackle. He scares me. And he's only 17. When I heard that, I was like, what? Are you kidding?
He's a full-grown man. He's probably the biggest running back we have besides maybe Garrett Kuhn, but he's the biggest, like, physically imposing running back. And yeah, he is reckless.
How about this narrative for this game? What if we just feed Marquis Johnson the ball and just get him in space and just let him run wild?
Why aren't we using him? It's driving me crazy.
Exactly.
It's driving me crazy. Thank you for saying that. Like, he's a proven commodity, and the only thing he's done was take a nice kick return against South Dakota State and like punch the South Dakota State player as he went down, basically. I don't know if you saw that play. He like stiff-armed. One of those stiff arms that's basically a punch. But
oh my gosh.
Like he looked just as fast as ever. So what's the deal? We don't have Ty McCullough. We don't have Lanyata Alexander. Jacob Trimble's doing okay, but let's get Marquis involved. Come on.
Bubble screen to Marquis. I don't know why we don't do it. I really don't.
He's not even in the game.
I know. And it just bugs me. And the fact that we're not passing to our tight ends is bugging me increasingly. And Coach talks about it every week. He's like, yeah, we got to get the tight ends involved a little bit more. Like, then freaking do it. Pass them the ball.
I feel like we're passing them more this year than we have the other years. Like, it hasn't bugged me. It's not
getting heated.
I mean, Lonergan and Snell each had a catch last week.
For once, I just want to see Chambers give the fly sweep instead of pulling it. He doesn't even fake it anymore. He's just like, here you go, and then tucks it. I'm like, man, give it to CT. Give it to Marquis. Just let him run. I just want to see it. I just want to see it.
I mean, that's been a hallmark of this QB running offense we've had for years now, is that there's a wide receiver who can take it to the house because you give it to him on a sweep. Who was that guy that we had? He scored 1 or 2 touchdowns in Cat Grizz, and he transferred out. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, totally know who you're talking about.
It's driving me crazy. I can't remember his name, but then Marquis Johnson. Like, there's always been a guy who can stretch the field in that way.
Yeah,
and we have one. We have possibly more than one.
We do,
but we're not using any of them. There's so much more we could be doing offensively. I think that's kind of my bugaboo about this so far. Okay, we had the game against Utah Tech. I think everybody, including me, thought we kind of held that back vanilla-wise to kind of not show much for South Dakota State. And then we showed even less against South Dakota State. I was like, oh, never mind. And then Stetson was a game we showed more, but it wasn't what I was expecting, though. I still haven't seen that same dynamic running game that we've been having. It's a little different.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I like it.
It is. We showed even less at South Dakota State. That was the head scratcher of all head scratchers. The whole Bobcat Nation's going, what the hell are we doing? Why are we being so damn conservative when we're playing the number one team in the nation? What are we holding back for? Conference play?
Again, I don't want to rib on it too hard because minus stupid penalties, we would have won the game with that game plan. So as much as I hated watching it, I think it was smart because it was keep away football. But I just wish they would have gotten the running backs. Like you can do the same stuff you're doing by giving it to a running back a little bit. And in certain situations, like 3rd and goal, after you've been stuffed twice up the gut, I don't know, do a different play. So there's some small critiques in terms of like situational play calling, but I thought overall the game plan was good, if not boring. But it, like I said, it came within a couple stupid plays and a non-scoop and score punt block. 4 Bobcats there. Literally, there's zero downside to try and scoop and score in that situation. None.
Exactly.
The worst thing that happens is that South Dakota State somehow gets it and they kick it out of the back of the end zone and it's a safety. That's the worst case scenario. Every other one involves us getting the ball inside the 3-yard line because they can't advance it back. It doesn't matter.
Oh man, I wish I could have watched you watch the replay of the game when you finally realized that we were there.
Yeah,
and then we had all those false starts. That was so frustrating, man. It was.
I mean, it definitely wasn't as like. Man, Bobcat Nation was really. A lot of people were pretty upset about that game. I was like, I was more optimistic than anything after that.
Yeah.
So what I did is I woke up at like 4 a.m. or something. All right, let's check the score. I'm like 16-20. I'm like, hey, not bad. Just looking at the score, I felt pretty good about that. Like that score was respectable. After getting blown out by South Dakota State and pretty much every Dakota school except for the one in Bozeman, every other time we've been murdered by these schools in the last few years anyway. So I was pretty happy with that score. Watching the game, we let it slip away, but to me, it still showed that we could compete. I wasn't throwing coaches under the bus. My thought wasn't like, I don't know. There's so many negative people about that game. If anything, it just gave me more hope that we could beat these guys again if we clean some stuff up.
It does both. It buoys hope and concern. I was really ticked at Housewright for calling that play 5 times in a row when we could do any number of things, of which he's called before. I love when we fake the dive and then leak out the blocker, the tight end, Snell, or do some sort of misdirection. It works all the time. Every single time it works for us. And I don't know why we did not do it. To me, this was a conversation I had. It felt like it was an ego thing. And that's something I can't get over. To me, it felt like we were just trying to prove that we could do it. And I was like, why?
Yeah.
This feels like we're working harder, not smarter. And we're just trying to just puff our chest and say, we will run it down your throat. We will. And this was like a mentality that was ingrained in them over the winter, because when you listen to Bobcat news, their driving force over the winter was that South Dakota State game. We got to get bigger, stronger, faster because of this moment in time. And I just think, I don't know, maybe it's this narrative I've crafted in my head of Coach Housewright getting caught up in this and then just being like, no, I'm not succumbing to it. I'm just going to prove that we can do this. That's how I feel.
I mean, you can also do chambers up the middle, even do that more creatively. Like, as stupid as that sounds, bring a running back there next to him. Like, if it's literally only chambers in the backfield, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Get a running back next to him so at least the defense has to think for a second.
Yeah.
And then, like, what about like a fake pitch? Like a real, just like all he has to do is like, and then go up the middle. Just something to get a defender to not key on him for a half a second.
Yeah. Well,
now granted, one of those should have been a touchdown. That was real borderline false start. That was a close one.
The one on Marcus Ware, I thought calling that on Marcus was pretty. It's too close to call.
I have no
right
problem
there.
with it, really. Looking at the I slowed down the replay. I'm like, all right, but that one worked though.
Yeah, it did.
The one that worked was the one we went up false starts on. I mean, only one of those works out of all the how many ever times we ran the stupid play. we win the game. So, yeah.
Here we
What are
are
you gonna do?
talking Jax. Still can't get over it. I still got fans who listen to this just texting me. Still hurts. I'm like, yeah. It's one we hard to get past. But
Man.
you know what? We didn't have like a hang up against Stetson. And that was my biggest concern was how's Montana State gonna respond? Well, pretty good because we hung a lot of points on them pretty early and then got in all the backups and that was good. But
Poor
now
Stetson didn't even get it to. They got like 3 hours of sleep. That whole debacle with them not getting till Bozeman or not getting to their hotel in Helena until like what 5:30 in the morning.
yeah, and
They
then
didn't get to
having
Bozeman
come-
until like midnight or something. Then for whatever reason they stayed in Helena, slept for a few hours, and then bust over to Bozeman.
terrible.
So that alone, like, that's tough.
It is tough.
I felt bad for them after a certain point.
Yeah. Not as
But they
bad
kept
as I
battling.
felt for
I give
American
Stetson
college
credit, man.
against
They battled.
Portland State.
They battled all game. Oh yeah, there's that North American University, Portland State. Ugh. At least it wasn't that.
I heard on today, I was actually listening to the Grizz fan pod. They had like minus 23 yards of
Yeah.
offense.
Someone on the Bobcat
That should
Nation
never be
is like,
allowed.
is like
That should-
this is basically Bishop Sycamore. Like if you're familiar with that whole scandal, there's some weird stuff going on. Anyway, we're going on a complete tangent here. Weber State.
right.
We didn't hardly talk about Weber State.
Well,
Have you feel good enough about that? Have we talked enough about Weber State? Any more matchups you want to talk about?
the guys I'm worried about are Bankston, their bruiser of a running back. He can move. He's big. He's like 200 pounds. He's got most of their yards already, but that's kind of deal. They're not rotating backs like they used to last year. They had like 3 backs last year. Bankston's their dude.
Yeah, they
So-
had Dante McMillan. I remember that was a guy who gave us a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
another
it's
thing
basically him this year.
Here's something I'm slightly worried about for this game is Montana State hasn't rotated their defensive line like they said they were going to.
Yes, thank you.
That was like a emphasis preseason, and then it just hasn't happened. We'll see what Paul brought coming back, but like even when Zach Black was healthy, we were seeing him mostly in mop up time against Gold Rush and that stuff. But when it got to South Dakota State, it was the same 5. It's the guys that we normally see, but yeah, I don't feel that's sustainable.
No, it's basically Valdez and Blake Schmidt never come off the field.
Mm-hmm. That seems to be a problem.
Maybe there's a defensive end, like Kenneth Iden factors in. It's like Kenneth Iden, Ben Seymour, and Brody Grebe kind of rotate a little bit, but Blake Schmidt, Seabass, they're always there.
David Alston is in the mix. I see him a little bit, but yeah, interior guys. And so Brock's going to be an interior guy that they're bringing back. Be interesting to see to watch that at least. So there's something to think about.
Well, it was good getting those guys some reps against Stetson.
Yeah,
they had a little bit of a rough second half there, but it's hard to get up for that. But at least those guys got some live game reps. Like Blake Heel played a lot. I mean, lots of guys got in that game, so that's good. But you're right, man. Like that was such a hallmark of just even a couple years ago, like Brent Riggins' first season. I felt like we were playing all sorts of dudes.
Yeah,
and now it's just like 2 guys on the interior. That's it. I don't know what we're doing.
So I just feel over time that I felt like we would get better on the defensive line. Just doesn't feel like we've taken that step. We just don't have the dudes.
Ooh,
I don't know. It's weird, man. You disagree?
No, man. We held South Dakota State, one of the most potent running attacks and offenses in the country, to like 20 points, and Isaiah Davis did even have 100 yards against us. Can you compare that to last year where they did whatever they wanted against us?
Oh, okay. Let me rephrase.
The D-line has taken a huge step compared to last year.
Outside of the guys we have, I just don't see the second wave being
The depth isn't there.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. The depth.
But I think the front line's better.
Okay, I can get on board with that. All right.
But I agree. Like, yeah, we need to be having guys play because you can't ride those guys, and if they get hurt, we all of a sudden have nobody that's played any meaningful snaps.
Mm-hmm.
What's the harm of taking Valdez out on a 3rd and 15, 3rd and 20? Blake Schmidt, get him out. There was a cool play. I think I told you this against, was it South Dakota State? There was a unique formation that I saw where we sacked Gronowski on the play. We brought in, and I'm going to have a hard time remembering this, and I texted you it, but we took out Blake Schmidt, and we brought in Kenneth Iden, Brody Grebe. We moved Askelson up into the box. He basically was a defensive tackle. Then we had Seabass and Ben Seymour. So we had like 3 guys who were like pass rush defensive ends, and then Nolan Askelson in there, and then Seabass to eat up some blocks. And we got to Gronowski real fast, and we sacked him. So we actually had 5 on the line and only 1 true defensive tackle. It was a pretty interesting look that I hadn't seen before.
Did you see it anymore?
I didn't pay that much attention to it. It just kind of stuck out to me on that play for some reason. I'm like, is it? Because I think I saw 5 guys on the line, and I saw Blake Schmidt run off the field. So I think it kind of surprised me. Like, Blake Schmidt's coming off because we're talking about those guys aren't coming off. And I actually rewound the play. I'm like, well, that's a very interesting lineup right there.
Gosh, man.
So the defense, I think, has more wrinkles this year. I think the play calling has been better, and I think the play on all 3 levels has been solid. So the defense is improved.
However, I feel like we play a little too much man. Sometimes I think we need to mix it up with zone, especially like, let's say when we face Idaho, if we go man, Giovanni McCoy might just slice and dice us.
Yeah. Or throw some double mans.
Yeah.
Double team a guy.
Gosh, man. Do you just ever stop and just look at Seabass's legs?
I have noticed his calf muscles before. Those things are massive.
Gosh. I feel like his thighs are like the size of my waist. Oh. I'd be interested.
He's one of the most NFL looking dudes I've seen at Montana State in some time.
He's sure muscled. He's just a specimen to behold.
Yeah. He'll get looks.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into some Golden Coolie questions.
We got lots of them.
Yeah. Let's start off in Bobcat Nation.
And I'm crashing.
You're crashing?
I'm getting tired, man. I'm still a little jet lagged.
Are you? Okay.
I think so, yeah.
We'll plow through them. We had T.I. Irwin. Man, that guy's a throwback. I hadn't seen his comments for a while. Giving Zach Levere some shine. Good for him. Let's see. Scrolling.
Yeah, always the danger of putting someone else on the podcast. Instantly better than us.
Zach, I know you're going to listen to this. If you go solo and take all of our listeners, well, you're lucky. I mean, you're welcome.
You're welcome. Touche, I would say, would be.
Yeah, he
touche,
did.
Sir.
He did a good job.
He did really good. I'm glad you mentioned it earlier. I didn't have a chance to say anything either, but yeah, good job, Zach and Tom, and thank you guys for filling in my stead while I was just drinking Guinness and not thinking about Bobcat football very much.
All right. So let's go through these pretty fast. Bleeding Blue says, who has the most carries for the Cats this Saturday? I think it's going to be Julius Davis.
I was coughing. What's the question?
Yeah, it's because Thorny thinks it's his cough. Who has the most carries this Saturday?
Julius Davis.
Yeah, we both said the same thing.
Or Chambers. Ooh, that's close.
Davis. All right, Roger.
So.
Roger Fisher, 1994. Is that when he went to school? 1994? Dang. Do you think the coaches are hiding more creative plays until they absolutely need them? Who knows, Roger? If so, what constitutes a must-win game? If not, then why not play a few cards early? I think, Roger, that's the question of Bobcat Nation. I don't know. That's something we talked about during this podcast. Thorny, have anything to add to that?
I'm going to channel like my Bill Belichick. Every game's a must-win game.
Appreciate you, Roger, for many reasons.
Hey,
but yes, you're asking the question we're all wondering right now.
I don't know. We talked about that. Like it feels like we haven't been creative this year, and we'll see if it's something we're hiding or if it's just the coaches are trying something different this year. Like I don't know. And as far as must-win games go, I do think the Weber State's a must-win game.
Is it too soon to say to sit down with Housewright and have a couple beers and ask him?
Hey, Hey, cut. Wow, fully out of left field. Yeesh.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
All right.
You got to make jokes so you don't cry. You got to laugh so you don't cry, right?
Okay. Cody. I'm sorry. I got to compose myself here. Oh,
Cracking
all right.
yourself
Cody
up.
Cat says getting the Cats win the national championship without Tommy. I know he will be back, but history says he will likely be injured again. This is what we were saying. He has finished 1 out of 4 meetings with the Dakota State universities. That's an interesting stat right there. Can the Cats win with the national championship without Tommy? I actually think they can. And here's a little hot take. They actually might be better at the quarterback position without him. Now,
Easy now.
I know you're looking at me going like this, and yes, give me all of it because I'll waffle on this. I'm not firm on this take. I think we are actually more multiple with our play calling without Tommy Millott. I'm just gonna say that.
It does seem to be the case. They let Chambers fly more for some reason, or Tommy just doesn't pull the trigger. One of the two. Maybe it's not the play calling. Maybe Tommy just doesn't have the gunslinger mentality, because Chambers is definitely more of a gunslinger. He'll let it fly.
You know, Tommy's
He'll also throw interceptions.
ultimate general out there, though, too. So there's gives and takes, right? You got the leadership. You got the we're not going to lose mentality with Tommy. You got the gunslinger mentality. I like being more multiple. Tommy gets it done, but we've also seen games where Tommy, for the lack of a better term, we've used it here, does the Tommy ball kind of offense, and it just pins us, essentially. We can't get out of that. I don't know. I'm losing a word right here, but we can't get out of that lane, and it feels like it becomes predictable.
I had something to say, and I completely forgot it.
All right, plowing on.
You just kept going, and my thought just eventually just left my head.
Thorny is dying. We got to get out of here. Okay. Colorado Cat says, now that we made it through non-conference schedule, what do you predict the Cats conference record to be? We did this a couple episodes ago. I think we're going to lose one conference game.
Is that what you had?
Yeah, it was a loss to Idaho.
I had us going undefeated.
Yeah, that's right. Because I had 2 losses. This is an 11-game season. We're going to start playing 12-game season. That's a whole nother conversation to have, actually.
We're playing 12-game seasons? What are you talking about?
Yeah, and going forward, I think starting next year.
Every season is a 12-game season?
I think so. It's kind of weird. So I think we have one more loss.
Yeah,
Long-time Cat.
I might change my answer to that too. I think we'd probably drop one at some point. I hope I'm wrong. I might stick to my undefeated prediction, but one seems kind of likely.
All right. Longtime Cat says, you're the coach. Do you still run plays where Tommy lines up in the backfield or wide out? Or do you just play him at quarterback? I'm just going to ask that one. He has quite a bit after that.
I play him how we've been playing him.
You don't change
probably
anything?
design like 5 runs for Tommy, and then the rest of it I just let Tommy do whatever Tommy's going to do.
Yeah.
And knowing he's going to scramble at least 5 times probably.
I see where the question comes from. I mean, obviously he got hurt on a non-contact play where he had the didn't even have the ball in his hand, and I see the frustration.
It wasn't non-contact. He got hit pretty hard.
Yeah, I said that wrong.
I know what you're saying. He didn't have the ball, but he didn't
have the ball. Mm-hmm. So that could have been avoided. I think you got to just let him do what he's going to do and just accept the consequences if he gets hurt.
Yeah.
So,
well, like I said earlier, I'm not sure play calling. I think he gets hurt kind of no matter what. So you might as well get the most out of Tommy when he's got the ball.
Mm-hmm. Good call. Well, I agree with that. Who would win in a fight? I always like these questions. Blue and gold blitz. 1 Connor Moore size taco dollar. I got to process that. Taco dollar, but bigger. Or 3 Tucker 3 taco dollar size Connor Moores. I have to choose probably the 3.
I'm going to say 3 taco dollar size Connor Moores.
Just, easily, right? Because Taco Dollar is not that much smaller than Connor Moore in essence. Like, I mean, Connor is like a hulk of a human.
Yeah, usually these kinds of questions are like 100 rats, like a 1 elephant-sized rat, or 100. There's usually a bigger discrepancy here. Like Taco's a small human, Connor Moore is a huge human, but they're not like they're still both humans.
Yeah, I would say blue and gold. You probably could take that down to 2 Taco Dollar size Connor Moores, and then have those Connor Moores hop on one of them hop on the back of the Connor Moore size Taco Dollar, and then the other one take out the knees, and I think you're good. I think then you just like
one versus 3 is always going to be hard.
Yeah,
and those two they're both competitors, so I picked the 3, no matter how big they are.
Gosh, blue and gold comes back with another one. Why can we never have a dominating offense and a dominating defense at the same time?
Because not many schools do, man.
Yeah,
quite simply.
Tough. It is tough.
Quite simply.
It is tough. That's hard to do. You guys just got to have that perfect mix of dudes.
Yeah.
Although
if you have that, you win a national championship.
Yeah. North Dakota State did it for years on end, dude. So it's out there. All right. Flip to
I hear what
the
he's saying,
next
though.
page.
It's frustrating. Like, we finally get a good offense, and the defense isn't like just 1 year, like 1 year removed from being a really good defense. All of a sudden, defense is bad, but the offense is good. So it's like, ugh, come on. I hear
All
you.
right, last one on Bobcat Nation. CNC Cat says, assuming that the Eastern Washington continues to play strong, could this be the most ranked teams MSU plays in a season? Also, Thorny, did you take a golden coolie with you to Europe? And what was the best thing you had to drink while you were there?
It never even occurred to me to bring the golden coolie. I feel bad. Had an opportunity.
Man, yeah, you could have took pictures with it everywhere.
Could have. My wife took knitting. She's a big knitter, so she was taking pictures of her knitting all over the place. Cool knitting over the cliffs some more, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just in there, like, looking at the cliffs some more. So, best thing I drank, probably Guinness. Probably Guinness. Didn't have a huge variety. Not super impressed with the German beers.
1, 2,
no beers I had in
3.
Germany and Austria blew me away. Guinness probably. I was surprised how much I liked Guinness because I didn't think I liked Guinness. So I will say Guinness, even though I got burned myself out on it.
To the front part of his question, yeah, I think that's right. I mean, we conceivably could play 5 ranked teams. If Eastern continues to win, we're going to play Montana, Eastern, Idaho, Sac, and Weber. That's a lot. That's a lot.
It's a lot in conference, and then of course we play the number 1 team in the country out of conference. It's not every time you play a ranked team out of conference. That's more rare. I think more and more Big Sky teams are going to be ranked just because the FCS landscape, like by far, Big Sky and the Missouri Valley Football Conference are the 2 best conferences. So like pretty much 4 or 5 teams in each of those conferences are going to be ranked every single year.
Yeah, it may be not that the conference is getting better. It may be just that the FCS is getting weaker and the Big Sky stayed the same. So it just kind of buoys the Big Sky.
Well, that's what it is. Yeah. I don't think the Big Sky is necessarily better. Yeah. It's just like Sam Houston States and the James Madisons of the world are gone.
All right. That's it on Bobcat Nation. What do you got on Twitter?
There's 3 ones here. I'm going to save the one I think you're going to like the best for last.
Okay.
The Mikes asked us, and we already kind of talked about this. He wants to know what's up with Alexander Jr. and Ty McCullough. And he asked, when did Caden Dollar get hurt? I think Caden Dollar got hurt in practice, right? From what I understand.
Coach Vegan said he got nicked up in the South Dakota State game and then just continued to get worse in practice.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch that. But then we obviously know about Junior Alexander now. Today announced his waiver was denied, and Ty McCullough is practicing. You said that Ty McCullough and Paul Brott were out for this week. I heard that they were just...
Paul Brott's coming back. I said JT Reed and Ty McCullough.
I didn't hear they were scratched. They were just like more of a game time decision, I thought. But
Coach said they were practicing, but they wouldn't play this week.
Okay. That's not what Victor Flores said on Twitter. Okay. Okay, Boston Bobcat or Buddy Boston. What's your take on the running back room? Will the new double deuce Scottree Humphrey have more than one carry this week in Ogden? Can Elijah Elliott get more touches? Julius Davis is obviously awesome, but with so many weapons, I just hope I'll stay healthy and keep other DCs guessing. I hope Scottree Humphrey gets more than one carry because I want to see running backs get carries this week.
Yeah, we need to lean on those guys. I think Scotchy does get a lot of carries. I don't think Elliott's going to get more. As much as we love Elliott, he's just buried on the depth chart. I mean, just to be honest with you.
Why is he buried in the depth chart? But
well, to be honest, like, yeah, I get it, but Scotchy Humphrey, pretty damn good. Like, he's a bulldozer. So Elliott is kind of like not only he's an awesome back, but he's different than everyone else we have because he's not as big. You and me, we've always liked the scat backs. Elliott fits that mold. Montana State has never loved the scat back.
I'm not sure I'd call him quite a scat back. He runs pretty hard.
Okay,
he's more physical than your average scat back, I would suppose. But he's more
like
of a
Demetrius Crawford kind of guy.
He's a lot bigger than Crawford, I think. Maybe not.
Was Crawford a little bit more powerful?
He was a hard runner.
Yeah,
he could break tackles.
Elliott could be a feature back.
He could be. He's proven himself durable, which nobody else has.
That's a good point. Really good point.
But yeah, all of a sudden, Jared White, Scottree Humphrey, and Julius Davis are all ahead of him. 2 freshmen. That's rough, man. Like, I love Elijah Elliott. It drives me crazy because every time he gets the ball, all he does is get yards and churn yards. And I think he probably has the best vision of any of the running backs.
Agreed.
So it's just kind of a mystery. Like I said, I get it. He's like barely in 4th place, and he'd be starting a lot of places. But to answer the question, he'd probably get 0 carries. In a game like this, a tight game, it seems like the staff is reverting more and more in these big-time games to reverting to their bell cows, which wasn't the case last year, but seems to be the case this year, which it's a worrying trend for me.
It's weird because we have like this awesome offensive line. You just think we would just cycle through our running backs. Just
like last year.
Fresh
so it didn't matter who was in there. And all of a sudden it's just like, no, now we only like 2 running backs, even though we have 4 really good running backs, 5 with Lane Summer's healthy. No,
it's still
going to have like 2 of them.
Pump the brakes. It's still early with kind of some weird games. Stetson was weird. South Dakota State was weird because it's just a weird high profile game. I think we're going to hit some strides where you're going to, I don't know, just pump the brakes. I think.
Okay.
So
I said it's worrying. I'm not concerned yet, but I will keep my eye on it. Oh man, it's getting late. I'm loony toony. Last question. I saved this just for you. D. Brem on Twitter asks us, loved Glesser's nickname Stones. What's your new nickname for 6'9" Hall? Stilts?
The reason why Stones was so good. The reason why Stones was so good because obviously you had to have the stones to kick it through.
Mm-hmm.
Stilts. I mean, now that I see it, I can't unsee it.
Yeah, I should have not said that and let you think on it for a minute. But Stilts is already in your head now.
Stilts puts it through. Yeah, I could get behind that.
Stilts. Yeah, it could be it. It could be Stilts Hall. Doesn't sound too bad. What to think? What to think more on that? I'm not officially adopting that yet, but I like it, and I have nothing better at this moment in time.
One thing I want to know, I still want to know: did players call Glessner Stones? Did anybody pick up on that outside of us, the few that listen to this podcast?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Our kids
we
call
could probably
him
reach
Stones.
out to Stones Glessner. He's not even on the team anymore, so he'd probably respond to us.
I know when I told his mom I called him Stones, she looked at me like, what the heck are you talking about? His dad just gave me a head shake like, no. I was like,
don't you call him that again.
Yeah, I'm like, well, you know what? It's my podcast and I'll call him Stones if I want to.
That's true. That's true.
He always will be Stones Glessner.
Pour one out. I still got some beer left. Pour one out for Stones Glessner. kicking it. Is he even
where's
playing
he
at
at?
UCLA? I don't even know.
Okay, I can't keep track of all these California schools that everybody went to. Connor Wood went to where? Was he Missouri? Mizzou. Okay. And then Sessions went to Cal.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot Sessions.
Sessions went to Cal.
I wonder if he's playing.
Afonso went to San Jose State and then transferred to
And then
Cal.
like, nope, I'm going to Cal.
Okay, so now we have two former Bobcats at Cal. And then Stones went to UCLA. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. It would have been way easier if Stones just would have went to Cal with Afonso and Sessions and then just
Keep it all in one spot.
Yeah, right. Okay, just making sure we got all
Stones
of our
Glessner went to UCLA because he probably wanted to kick in perfect weather, but the problem is UCLA is now in the Big Ten, and now they have to go play in like Michigan and Wisconsin. So right
Joke's
back
on
in the
you,
cold
Stones.
weather, buddy.
Joke's on you. Oh my gosh.
It's a good way to end the podcast. Is no one still listening at this point? I feel like this one was just garbage. Not Rusty. I'm back for the first time. It felt just bleh.
But it started rough. The read for Gear Up, and I apologize, Mac, our sponsor. The read for Gear Up. It's like I went back to 5th grade and was trying to read all over again. I'm a math teacher.
You telling me that your one practice read before we started recording wasn't enough fully?
It was hard for me. I'll get better at it. I can't. I just got to say it. I just got to memorize it or do it my own. I'll get it. But thank you, Gear Up, for being our sponsor.
Thank you.
Yeah, like if you're a middle school, high school coach, whatever, and you're looking for some good uniforms like Nike uniforms, Gear Up's here. Like, get in contact with us, guys. We'll put more out there, but they're a great company. They're an awesome sponsor. All right.
Hey, who we got picking for the Golden Coolie?
Oh,
I say Stones.
Yeah, let's do Stones.
That's a funny question. D. Brem, I'll reach out to you on Twitter. Thank you for the question. It was good. And Stilts is the placeholder for now.
Stilts.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. I fixed it. Thanks everyone for listening to the show. Thanks for Gear Up for being our show sponsor. Thanks again to Wilbur Ellis for being the Golden Coolie sponsor. You can find us on rrcatcast.com, Twitter /rrcatcast. You can always shoot us an email at rrcatcast@gmail.com. Foley, let's get out of here, man. Go Cats.
Go Cats.